Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay? Okay, a lot of new faces here. I've not met a lot of you, maybe one or two, but thanks for joining us. It's a beautiful summer evening there, but you've chosen to come listen to me, Jana, and Alex speak today. I'm going to take it a bit darker here. So, I mean, it's, let's say, yeah, it's late in the night. You should be in bed, but instead you are worried, you're feeling like you need to do more, you are thinking about what else can you do to bring more visibility to your brand or business, how to get more traffic, how to grow your subscribers, whatever it is, and eventually how to make more money. That's what most people are thinking about. I've been there many nights. I'm sure most of you have gone through that. And eventually, you go on LinkedIn, you start doom scrolling, and your peers are doing well, they're acing it. Your competitors are everywhere, they are getting good PR, they're acing it. It just feels like everyone is doing well except for you. That's just a feeling that comes out. And then, FOMO kicks in. You start opening your bank accounts, your dashboards, your metrics, and everything that you can get your hands on, but none of them give you the answers that you need. So what you do is you just end up making decisions to say, doing something is better than doing nothing, and you just start writing a blog post using Claude. You draft a LinkedIn post that you schedule, and then you unschedule, and then you eventually delete it, and then you write another. All sorts of stuff happen. You start building a couple of new features, and then there's hundreds of ideas buzzing past your head at that point, and you make a lot of decisions. You make a bunch of decisions, and eventually you'll have to explain that to your co-founder maybe, or your colleagues, your team, and they might challenge your assumptions. They might ask you, what are you talking about here? Or maybe they'll join in and then they'll throw 100 more ideas that it'll become a mix of ideas there. Eventually, you're more confused than where you started. So you're feeling like, what am I even doing? At some point, you'll have to walk into an investor's room, and they're going to ask tough questions. And all that you have is a bunch of hundreds of ideas, no real plan, and you try to mask that by showing a lot of graphs and charts and numbers and saying, we'll make it, but they're not going to buy it. It's hard. And it's very hard. And when things get tough, the things that we do is take the easy way out. We would start throwing tactics on a wall and hoping something will stick, but it'll rarely stick. And we'll keep on doing it. And I've been there many times in my past careers. And I remember a time when I had to actually send a board report to a board to say, at this point in time, strategy is pretty much hope. Hope is the only thing that we have left, because the that particular company was in a tough position. We had lost our way for quite a while. We didn't have the right compass or the guidance system to bring us back on track. So, hope was the only thing left. And that leads us to start burning cash and energy on bad choices. So we make a lot of bad choices at that point. And again, I've been there, I've made those bad mistakes and choices. You start building random features that no one cares about. You start doing marketing that no one notices us or nobody's interested in. And that's me. So I've come out of that world. And I'm Sid. I run Unlock Growth. I nowadays stop founders and teams from making those bad choices and helping them make, or at least guiding them towards the right direction. I'm mostly an advisor, mentor, run a lot of workshops, and when I have additional capacity, I do a bit of embedded fractional work as well. So I did say that company where I was in, we were lost, and that was because we didn't have a guidance system. We didn't have the right compass to lead us to the right place. And that's what you can fix using the North Star metrics framework. Have you heard of North Star metric? Okay, that's good. I'll give you a bit of insights into North Star and key drivers, and I would encourage you to read more about it. It's a really useful framework. It's very simple. So think about it as the North Star and guiding the three wise men. So the North Star metric is one metric that denotes customer value. So most businesses would, at least at a scaling stage, most businesses would say revenue is their goal, revenue is the core metric, and I've been in organizations where we'll know we need to hit 2 million, 10 million, whatever it is, and then everybody will be trying to figure what can we do and how can we game it and hit that number. But it's not revenue. North Star should be something that's customer value. This is why you're running your business. So what is that one thing that the customer gets, that the customer comes back to you on, and they'll eventually pay. Them paying is not necessary, but they'll eventually pay if you keep delivering that value. And the way to find that, I mean, just before that, there are some examples. So these are not officially documented by these organizations, but they are eventually communicated by people who used to work in these organizations through time. Daily active users and weekly and monthly active users are a standard North Star metric for social platforms. Because if they can get people to keep using the app or their website on a day-to-day or weekly, monthly basis, the users find some value. They like the videos, they share content and whatever. Eventually that will pull advertisers, and the advertisers will pay money, or sometimes the users might subscribe as well. And that's the idea. So if people can find value by if they feel like they have to keep coming back to the platform, then eventually everything else will align. In e-commerce businesses, it's sometimes number of weekly purchases or number of repeat orders and so on. The assumption is if you keep focusing on people coming back, then they are finding value, then your revenue will increase eventually. I mean, Uber is an example, or any ride-hailing app, which would be the number of rides. So if people keep booking rides, then they are finding value, they are paying, and the whole ecosystem runs. So on and so on. The Salesforce thing is a good example as well. So it doesn't have to be always about the active users. So with Salesforce, it's more how many records are created. So like design apps, like Figma, for example, they'll have metrics like how many files that are created or how many projects created as a metric as well. So as I said, revenue is a bad metric because revenue can be gamed. If you ask people to say, we need X amount of money to be made, your staff might start discounting, they might devalue the product or the service, and eventually that road keeps going down. So when there are other things like teams can get burnt out, like I pointed out, the example where I was in an organization, the chasing revenue, eventually we ran out of ideas. We already discounted, we kind of devalued the product. At one stage, the whole team gets demotivated as well. So that's some of the reasons why you shouldn't use revenue as your North Star metric. And how do you find your North Star metric? It's you look for what is that activity that the customer usually comes to your product or service for. And as I give some examples, you could always pick from those examples. You spend a little bit of time. If it's just you in organization, then you just spend a little bit of time figuring out what that is. If you have a couple of team members, then you sit together as a workshop, brainstorm some ideas. But the idea is you have to pick something and go with it, than arguing about it for weeks. I've seen that happen in organizations where a North Star metric will come up, not everybody would agree, and a week later somebody would already say, I said that was not a good North Star metric. We don't want to be in that kind of a position either. And it needs to be a number that if that number grows, revenue eventually will follow. So you need to somehow find a way that revenue can follow. The reason being, if ever somebody came and asked for a revenue goal as an investor or a board, or somebody said, we need to hit X revenue, you should be able to work what your North Star target should be based on that revenue. And It should also denote long-term success. Your North Star shouldn't be something that's a fast burn number. It needs to gradually build sustainable success for your business. Everybody in the organization should be able to understand what it is and somehow contribute to it. Even if they are in customer success, or if they are sales, or whichever department they are in, even if they're in design, they should be somehow able to see what that number is and work towards it. Usually I would say weekly meetings are helpful in larger organizations, even smaller organizations, where a weekly meeting is run to quickly sense check that number, where we are, how we are progressing. Added a small note there. So for early stage organizations, or early stage before you've found product market fit, you might struggle to find what is that customer value. You probably don't have customers using your product as often. So in that case, you might find some kind of a proxy metric. So for some companies, I've ask them to use website traffic as a metric even at the very early days, and sometimes it's how many people have reached your book a demo page, or so you're finding proxy metrics, and once you hit those proxy metrics, then you can go to the next step in that funnel. So that's kind of how it looks like. So if you're building a spreadsheet and you put a couple of columns to say week 1, week 2, and so on, and then your core number would be what's that North Star metric and what's your target. I'm just working with some fictional numbers here. So what's that target and where are we at any given point in time. Also keep in mind the North Star metric should be something that's easily accessible. You don't want to spend half an hour to 1 hour trying to crunch and get that number. It should be something that's easily accessible somewhere and easily measurable. If not, find a way to make it easier. I've got a spreadsheet that I use for client work like this, and at the end I'll put a QR code. If you send me an email, I'll give a copy of that template. So the North Star metric is your North Star. It's really hard to visualize how you can move that. It's quite a large abstract number, an abstract goal. You need a couple of levers that can help you get there. So it's kind of like this. So if you have a couple of levers, you know you can use those levers to eventually move this abstract larger number. So those are your key drivers. So they are the second tier metrics. And think about them as all these pulleys and stuff. So you have various mechanisms with which you can lift or grow your North Star metric. If it's helpful, I would look into Pirate metrics. If you've not heard of Pirate metrics, it's basically, there are various versions. It's AAA, RRR, so it's like R. There are some versions where revenue comes after referral, or some versions where revenue goes before referral. Some versions don't go for awareness. It depends from business model to business model, but Pirate metrics is a good way to look for what are the key drivers that you can pick for your business. That's a imaginary scenario where if your North Star metric was daily active users and you are a SaaS company, you might probably go with a funnel like that. So it doesn't mean you have to pick all of these, but this is just an imagination of how you can influence that daily active users. So effectively, you need to reach a whole bunch of new users, and then you pull them to your website. That's the awareness level, and you get them to sign up to trials, which is the activation layer, and you give them that aha moment. Then hope they don't churn, retain them. Jana will walk you through it. And then they refer you to other people. So if all of that kind of happens, then maybe your daily active users will keep growing. So that's how you could figure it out. And then you might pick a couple of metrics. When picking key drivers, you need to be able to actually do something about it. So if you're just a one-person team, there's no point in having many key drivers. I would usually say just 1 or 2 is sufficient. And if you have a small enough team, or even a 50-people team, 3 to 4 is the max. Beyond that, the focus gets diluted. Everybody is then starting to go back to that scrambling around. So these are just some examples. One would be, in order to get 100 150 weekly active users. You probably, these numbers kind of add up. I try to make sure they add up. So you need about 500 new website visitors a week, with about 25 of them signing up to trials, which is a 5% target. And based on these numbers, you're actually hitting target every week. However, what's not working well is that retention layer, where one of the things you want is they go and create at least 3 projects or team projects, and that's the layer which is not working. So based on this trend, you'll hit the target in about 10 weeks. Now, if that is a decent success metric, then that's good. You will hit your target. And if not, you'll have to then figure out where things are going wrong and readjust that a bit. But this gives you pretty much the map and the navigation system to know currently the key problem is retention. Traffic seems to be okay. It could be better, but it's okay. We are doing well on the activation front. We don't need to put much effort into it, but we'll watch out for it. But retention seems to be the problem. We need to work on that. So that gives you that map, and anybody in the team, yourself or anybody else, they'll know what to do in order to get that done. Like I said, just 3 is the max, 4 if you're a larger organization, and if you're just an individual, then 1 to 2 is already too many. And early stages, your key drivers would be more acquisition heavy, trying to get traffic to your website, trying to get people to notice you and so on. But a bit earlier, later stages, retention, lifetime value and so on becomes the focus. Just keep in mind, people should be able to own that. Ideally, if you have a marketing team, then the marketing team or the head of marketing or whoever is responsible, they'll be in charge of the marketing focused numbers. And if there's a product owner, they'll be in charge of the retention or product focused numbers. But somebody needs to be responsible who actively drives it. They are the people who are running the team meetings and making sure their team is delivering on it. With those metrics, there'll always be one metric which is your problematic metric. Like in that example, retention was the problem. Retention is what's causing that bottleneck. So you name it as the rate limiting step, and a rate limiting step is basically to say, that's what I'm going to focus on. If I open my computer on a Monday, that's the first thing I'm going to do. So that gives you that guidance. And yeah, you mark it in the spreadsheet as that's the biggest focus. So everybody in the team, or if it's just you, you at least know that's what your focus is. Now, all of this basically helps you to find the 10% that helps you get to that 90% of what the growth is. Matt Lerner is a well-known person in the space. He runs this program called System. There are a lot of Edinburgh organizations that's system trained. I was system trained many years ago. It basically brings a system into place that you can follow through. And as a system, the organization can grow systematically and find repeatable growth. Once you got this kind of a North Star framework and a key drivers mechanism, now you can start explaining what you do to anybody. So if an investor or a board member or a colleague or anybody asks, now you'll be able to use a format like that to go, we're actually doing whatever task I'm doing in order to increase my key driver by a percentage or a number, because that's going to help me grow my North Star. And that narrative gives you clarity, your team clarity, and I mean, you have focus to actually go do something about it. I'm just going to very quickly go back to explain. So for myself, as a solo founder, a solo consultancy, to me, I use my North Star metric. My North Star metric is monthly active clients. Now, clients don't necessarily mean they have to pay me, but they are having some kind of an open agreement with me. And eventually, if those active clients can stay on, then there'll be some kind of, when I say active, there needs to be at least one email or one call that happens. And if that happens, then I'm eventually making money. But it's also because I'm delivering value that call or email or whatever session happens. So that's my North Star metric. And how I can hit that North Star metric, my key drivers are the number of workshops and seminars and talks that I deliver. So that's a metric that I know I can actually pull. And if I did that, then I eventually get a bit of visibility, reach, and so on. And the next one would be quality conversations every month. Again, that is something that I can influence. They don't have to be clients of mine, but as long as I keep having those conversations one-to-one, eventually the people might become clients, and if they become clients, then if they stay as active clients, then I get some revenue out of it. So it's just giving an example of how I approach the framework for myself. And it also helps you with anytime somebody comes up with an idea, or if you came up with an idea for yourself, or anybody in the team said, let's do X, Y, and Z, could always say, great idea, but just write down a sentence on how you will connect that with our North Star. How will it influence one of the key drivers? How will it influence the North Star? And let's prioritize it during the next sprint. If it seems to be a high value task, then we'll do it. If not, we'll come back to it. So that gives you that quick litmus test on whenever somebody comes up with one of those amazing ideas, you could easily say, let's do it or park it based on how will it impact our growth. So moving on from the, that's the metrics framework. Is there any questions or anybody got any thoughts to share?
Have you ever assessed the sensitivity with which each driver sort of leads to an effect? In a sense of like I would just compare it slightly to ESG, right? So ESG is a score-based metric.
Okay.
And then within each pillar, there are sub-pillars, which are like 20 to 30, sometimes 40 different components made of the pillar. But if we know which component gives the best result or gives the highest score, we can then gradually make it simpler and simpler until we basically define like a very palatable formula that we can push forward and very easily know if something is going to be a success or not.
Yeah.
Do you think anybody is even looking into this when it comes? Because I think this is fascinating, this metric.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of this is to simplify it. I mean, companies could go into a lot more science, and you could peel the layers and try to use various cascading and trickle down or cascading up metrics. But this basically simplifies it, so you're not bound by it. So you could stick with it for a quarter or even a couple of months, and you'll realize we are unable to do anything about it. Our priorities seem to be elsewhere, and at least you can shift the key drivers to let's follow something else. It's very loose. Beyond all of this, I usually would go to OKRs, objectives, and key results, which become a bit more complex like that. So then you give a metric or a goal to a team and say, this is your goal. And that team will have sub-goals. And then they'll have people under the team with their goals and sub-goals. And then performance management and all happens. So in larger organizations, yes. But this is more keeping it lean and simple.
More niche.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So with organic and paid channels, now when you go speak to investors or when you speak to ecosystem people, they'll always say find organic growth. Now, what they mean is try not to spend money. However, I mean, organic growth costs money as well. It costs your time, it costs effort. That time and energy that you could be using on something else, it's still money. So I would always say be open to paid channels. When somebody says go after organic growth, is they basically want some kind of a way that you can repeat things. So if you could prove paid channels can work, there's nothing wrong in it. So I've again been in organizations where somebody would come and throw example to say we need to do organic growth because HubSpot does organic growth. They have a blog. Every traffic that comes through their blog. They don't have to pay money. Of course, they have people creating content. They have to be paid. Content production, everything is cost. And somebody might say, let's find referral growth like Dropbox did. Let's go give something free and let people recommend it, and then growth will come. But Dropbox didn't start on day one with that hack. It took years before they found that as a hack, and that's why I have an iceberg there. So you always see the top of the tip. You don't know what led to that hack, and people might say, okay, let's do something like Zapier. Well, let's integrate, find partners, and we'll get growth to partners. But again, finding partners and working with partners, building that trust, again, it's time, energy as well. And occasionally somebody would throw in saying, oh, let's do a viral video like Beast. Let's focus on viral videos. And again, viral videos happen by chance. Okay, you can engineer it to a certain extent, but again, it's chance. So the reason why I'm saying it is organic growth is leaving too much to hope and chance. And if you can reduce some of that, paid channels can help. And all of that pretty much highlights a lot of biases and behavioral biases and fallacies. So when you see an organization succeeding because of organic growth, we don't know what else led to that in the first place. So paid channels can work, and I add the underscore purely because there's no guarantee there, but at least you can test and validate faster than waiting 6 months and a whole year for organic growth to kick in. So another key element is with paid channels, you can reach a wider top of the funnel. So at any given point, there's maybe a very small number of people in market to buy from you. They know they have a problem, they need a solution, and they are looking for a solution. They might be Googling, they might be looking for specific reviews and so on, so organic growth can help there. However, when it comes to the top of the funnel is quite wide open, where people might not even know they have a problem. They might not know they have a solution available for it, and then they won't know what products fix that solution. So it's easier to get to that place through paid ads. And I'm going to focus on Meta ads, but there are various platforms. Most of them have gone into the whole AI-driven targeting. The old school marketeers don't like it because it's a lot of change. However, I've recently seen it actually working very well. So what's this whole AI-powered targeting? Google Andromeda algorithm at some point, and there's enough information about it. Every website you go to, pretty much most websites have Meta pixel in it. You wouldn't even know. It's just another pixel sitting on a website. When you accept cookies, you accidentally might accept it, or by choice you would accept it. Your competitors' websites have Meta pixel. All the Amazon and every platform, blogs, they all have Metapixel running somewhere. And when you're using Instagram or Facebook, every video you watch, every video where you stop the scroll, every video you like, you open, you share, and what your friends are doing, what your family is doing, Meta is learning about all of this in real time. It might sound scary and privacy and all of that stuff, but Meta has a lot of data, and Meta knows more about you than you probably know about yourself. And that's why sometimes people say Meta is listening to me. Maybe it is, but maybe it's mostly because Meta knows you're about to make a decision, or you're about to need something, and it's preempting it for you. To truly be able to use the algorithm for your benefit, you need to have a good understanding of your customer journey. So, like I say, people sometimes don't know they have a problem, and then you educate them that there is a problem, and then educate them there are solutions available, and there are products available, and you are the best product, and why they should buy from you. Think about that as a funnel, and if you can create content, ads, and creatives to help them along that funnel, Meta can find people at the right moment in time. An example is, I've recently been researching microphones to record my workshops and mentoring sessions. haven't looked up on Facebook itself, but I've seen various websites. And yesterday, Meta introduced a product to me called Plod. Never heard of it before, but seems like a card-size AI recorder which can transcribe and do a lot of stuff. But Meta knows I'm doing that research, and then it's preempting and telling me there is a product available. I would never have known about Plod, but now I am already looking at what Plod can do, how much it costs, and so on. So think about it as people who might never know about you, never know you solve a problem, can already see you because you can appear in front of them at the right moment in time. These are various examples. If you don't know about it, Meta, Google, LinkedIn, they all have an ad library. So you can go onto their ad libraries, just Google ad library and you'll find it. You can go to the ad libraries, put a business name, or just search like Edinburgh, whatever, or SaaS for risk software, whatever. You will see every ad in the system from, I think, since GDPR time. It's a regulation that they have to show what ads are running. So you can actually spy on what your competitors are doing, what adjacent industries are doing, and you can learn from that as well. So these are ads that I just picked up this week. Hagen targeting the pain that content creators go through. To become a YouTuber, you can do all of that stuff. So much pain. Or hey, just go get Hagen. Or maybe you've been spending a bunch of money with web developers and not getting what you want. Why don't you give it a shot, build a website in 5 minutes? Maybe you've been hoping to make that, create that audiobook. You all have that text. It's just a click. You could do that. So they're addressing things that might be in your mind, but you might not even have thought about it, and they're helping you make that decision. There's also some ads which go a bit over creative, and it actually works. So this is the problem unaware stage. Somebody who has carpal tunnel might not even have noticed it. Let's say I've got a condition where when I'm using my mouse, it starts hurting after a while. And now I might think, why am I still using a mouse and typing? And I could just be speaking to Whisperflow. So they're seeding that thought into me. And I might not buy Whisperflow straight away, but I might come to it at some point, the more the pain continues. I often see myself in that kind of a pose, and every time I see this ad, I realize, damn it, I need to go back a bit. So these are earlier top of the funnel ads that you could run, and you are the person who made somebody aware, and they'll remember your brand. They might not sometimes, they might not click straight away, but they'll at least remember the brand, and when it comes to a stage when they really need to, they'll probably go on Google and look for Whisperflow reviews or Whisperflow comparisons, alternatives, and so on. So you're helping them make that decision faster. Two key things. Pixel, you need to have a pixel in your website that's from Meta that's always tracking people. So you can pass information back to Meta to tell them what is a good success metric, and for them to go keep finding those people for you. And ad creatives. There is no one ad that's amazing anymore. Some projects I have 25 ads in one ad set. It's various angles of the same problem, trying to come at it from different angles, so it can have enough material to go find all those people. Finally, signals. You can do all of that, but you need to know that it's working for you. And this is what somebody once said, measure what you can, explain what you can't. So there are some numbers. You will have first-party data. You will know to a certain extent how many people actually came to your website. This is usually your own website-related data, how many people signed up to the trial, who's paying, who's not paying, who's churning, and all that detail. So you use that data and try and explain the rest using signals. And the whole reason being Meta and most systems have been unable to measure people anymore. Since GDPR, since iOS updates, tracking is not 100% there. So they take some of the data and then they speculate the rest. So anything that you see where you have search engine data or keyword ranking data, keyword volume data, even what Meta says, saying clicks, reach, and everything, you just have to assume they use a little bit of data from you, then they use a little bit of data from related markets, and then they model the rest. If you take your mouse on top of those numbers, it'll always say statistical data. Just because you see a number doesn't mean it's true. You need to then make your own analysis on top of it to say, how many people actually came to my website? One thing you could definitely look for is how many people are searching for your brand. So the more ads that we run and scale those ads, one thing I look for in Google Search Console and Bing Search Console is there more people searching for your brand along the same time? In that case, your ad is making people search for your brand. So you need to use some kind of your own internal modeling beyond that. And ultimately, the last thing is, a good marketeer is a person who would not just sit behind the computer and make those decisions. You also ask your customers, and you would maybe put a little mandatory form at the checkout or somewhere to say, how did you find us? Leave it as an open field. Ask people when you're having conversations. They might not remember perfectly, but you use all that information and then you create your own modeling on what's working and what's not. So you can then explain back to your investors, board, colleagues, and so on. But that's all from me. If there's a small survey there, and if you give your email address, I'll send the slides and the template that I use for my weekly tracking sheet. Thank you very much.
Guys, we have a few minutes for questions. So,
1, 2, 3. Okay.
so if you want to ask some question, like, go ahead, put your hand up, and I'm going to bring the microphone to you.
That's one.
Yeah, hi, thank you for the presentation. I have a question about the budget.
Mm-hmm. Oh, just open.
Yeah, general rules about the budget of the marketing researchers, the campaigns, like how is it related to your revenue profits, like any percentage range, if you can make the sense of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no right answer here, but I'm just going to say what I feel. I've always said 30 to 40% of your entire company's budget should go to sales and marketing together. And that includes team, people costs, and technology spend and so on. So if you're having MailChimp or whatever you're paying for, your ads, everything. So that's kind of an acceptable rule of thumb. So for 30 to 40% goes towards sales and marketing, including people, contractors, and everything there. And based on that, you might figure how much you have for paid media. The good thing about paid media is you don't have to commit too much. I sometimes start client work with £15 a day. £10 sometimes is a bit too small. Sometimes the system won't even allow you to use that bid. But £15 a day, I wouldn't open the market too wide. I would say, target a small city or target a small niche. And then if that works, and if you're seeing that people are clicking, people are engaging, people are coming to your website and staying on your website, then you scale that a little bit to say, can I bump it to 30 and see what happens, and then can I bump it to 60? And if it doesn't work, now at least you learned something. Make sure you document it, take all that data, keep it aside for another day.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And as a return on investment, it's generally considered, it was at least, with VCs and so on, anything about 3x is decent. 3x is, you put £1 and get £3. It's good, but ideally you want a lot more. I've got clients of all sorts of ranges. There are people who get 3x, there's one person who gets 20x. It depends from industry to industry.
We have time for one more question, if you guys have.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Right, okay. I was hoping maybe you could explain the rate limit step just maybe a little bit further, because I didn't really quite grasp what
Yeah. So the rate limiting step is still one of your key drivers. So let's say you've got 2 or 3 key drivers. For me, my rate limiting step is the number of conversations that I can have. That's the one thing that if I do well, it'll make my North Star grow faster. If I take my foot off that, then everything slows. So that's the most important thing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. I think we have a small break and then Jana's talk. Thank you.